You are now listening on One Radio, the talk show podcast station, bringing you Let's Talk with open discussions, hot topics, as well as information. All information and resources are based on the opinions of the host unless otherwise noted. This podcast may contain some quotations, images, and/or excerpts from copyrighted material. These uses fall well within the copyright doctrine of fair use. This is Let's Talk. I don't count likes, calories, or blessings. I don't dine with snakes or bite my tongue. It is what it is. I am what I am. I am your host, Tony Williams. Welcome to Let's Talk. I am your host, Tony Williams. Tony on One for those who know that name. I am back. I've been on a little vacation. Sorry, guys. I needed a vacation. I had to rest the body, the mind, recuperate, and come back to you straight and ready to give you the dish, the tea. A little bit of gossip, a whole lot of truth, and for the most part, real, raw, uncut truth. That is our reality that we live in. So today we're going to be talking about critical race theory. Now, everyone is up in arms about this. Some people really don't have much of an opinion on it. They're just like, I'm just not going to touch that subject. And then there are those who have a whole lot to say about it. And then you have those who are fighting for it as well as against it. So if you're not familiar with critical race theory, let's dive into it there. We'll start there. So critical race theory is a body of legal scholarship and an academic movement of civil rights scholars and activists in the United States that seeks to critically examine U.S. law as it relates and intersects with issues of race within the United States, as well as to challenge mainstream American liberal approaches to racial injustice. So, critical race theory, for short, I'm going to say CRT, but I'm talking about critical race theory. Now, CRT examines social, cultural, and legal issues, for the most part, as they relate to race and racism in the United States. So, basically, they're trying to make sure that, everything was really on the up and up with our history. And let's be honest here. No, it's not. Some things are not being told or taught in school. So they've came up with this. And a lot of people have argued that this is one of those things that just black people complaining, oh, they just want something, oh, they're just being pitiful, they're being lazy, they just want a reason to blame us for something. No, not even fucking close. Not even close. Now, 21 American states have introduced bills that would control teaching critical race theory or keep a tab on how teachers can discuss racism and sexism. The names of these states are Arizona, Arkansas, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Michigan, Missouri, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. Now, out of these 21 states, 4 have already turned these bills into law, and they are Idaho, Iowa, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. So this is already a law. Now, I'm going to pose a question to you all. How do you feel about this? Do you feel like critical race theory should be taught? Or better yet, let me ask this question. Would you rather have the truth about history or a sugar-coated, watered-down, leave all the major bad things out and just only give you the good? I mean, which one would be better for you? Which one would help you and your family and your friends and the generations to come? Would it help anyone? It's almost like if you're talking to someone, say you're talking to the bank teller, and they give you a half truth about your situation or your money. You're not going to be too happy about that. The same goes with every other industry around you. Your house, your car, all the way to your yard, man. You don't want half truths. If somebody's going to tell you something, you want them to tell you everything, not leave out anything, regardless of how bad it may bother you, or I can't say make you feel, because nobody can make you feel a certain way. So this is basically the argument there. Okay, so let's run through this now. Most of the things that we were taught in school, let's be honest here, most racism was left out. We knew nothing of this until we became adults and went to college, or a relative told us about it, or we ended up on a computer and researched it ourselves. But it was not taught to us in school. So should it be taught in school, or should it not? It's almost like you're looking for the least risky move. And that's a catch-22. Do you want your children being taught the truth, or you want them to be basically lied to? And when it comes to racism and critical race theory, everybody's dirty laundry is going to get fucking aired. So, Tony, why do you say this? I say this because, think about it. Just really think about it. Who wants their dirty laundry aired? And that's in every race. Because let's be clear here. True enough, throughout the years, Black people have experienced slavery, racism, and sexism. And that is in our history. We do, in America, have deep-seated racism. We do. And when I look on social media and listen to people on TV, even on the news, and they say, no, America's not racist. We have some problems. That's like talking about your badass kids. No, they're not bad. They're just misunderstood. No, them motherfuckers is bad. So, yeah, America is racist. You can't put a Band-Aid on that. I mean, the first step to recovery is admitting, owning that. And the throw part is, everyone who's against this are the people who really didn't have a hand in it. It really is not about you. It's about the ones who did do it. But like most human beings, you don't want your family's name in the mix of anything like that. Because why? It could be economically status quo destroying. I mean, it could tear someone's whole shit down. People stop going to their businesses, this, that, and the other. But that's going to happen, whether your dirty laundry is aired or not. Because if a lot of people are still having openly racist behavior toward people, that is alone going to make you stop going to their store. I'm not going to spend my money where I am hated. I'm going to spend my money where I am appreciated. And that's any race. So, I digress, but let's jump into this. We're going to run through this history real quick. And tell me, if you're listening to this on YouTube, comment in the section below. If you're listening to this on podcast, you can email me, you can inbox me on Facebook, On One Radio, Tony On One, and let me know your feelings on this. Okay, so now here we go. 1865, slavery was outlawed in the United States. That's 1865. So you had all those years before that where it was not. So you have some really horrific things that took place And it all had something to do with slavery. But it's not being taught. So we have the incidents where we have in Manhattan, New York City draft riots in 1863. Now this was pretty much started basically, as a very, violent opposition to a new federal conscription law. And basically the law increased the number of men who faced being called into the war. Nobody really wanted to do that shit. They wanted to be at home with their family. There was enough shit going on. They needed to be at home with their family. So hell no, they didn't want to go. Now, this caused an upset with citizens because it was possible to pay for a substitute. Where the fuck we do that at? Oh, that's right, in America. It was possible to pay for a substitute, but it was only available to the rich only, and blacks were exempt, as they were not considered citizens. Did you get that shit? Yeah. But we weren't taught this in school. We were not taught this in school. Now, due to the media fanning the flames at the time, white mobs attacked federal buildings, turned their anger towards the black working class citizens. And in 4 days, hundreds of black residents were forced from their homes and over 100 were killed, many of them lynched. But America does not have a racism problem. There was no slavery. Oh, everything was fine. Nothing happened. Bullshit. Now, in New Orleans, Louisiana, yes, everyone's dirty laundry is going to get aired in this. They had a massacre July 30th, 1866. Now, this was after the end of the Civil War. Republicans called a convention in hopes of having the right to vote for black men put into the state constitution. Only July 30th, 1866, the convention commenced. Black men, many of them Union veterans, were marching through the streets in support of the proposed changes, with hundreds of Confederate veterans serving as emergency police officers. Did you also catch that? Tension was high and a gunshot rang out. Now, let me stop right there. This tends to happen on a regular basis throughout history, as well as the present. Just think about it. All the protesting and everything, and there's always a gunshot ring out. Who do you think did that? Okay, so chew on that little bite for a moment. Now, after the gunshot rang out, the white mob began attacking the black marchers. Let's stop there. Okay, so basically, that was the cue to jump on black folks. Okay, moving on. Now, when the federal troops decided to show, over 100 were wounded from the fighting and around 40 or more black men had been killed. Somebody was happy while a race of people were devastated. I mean, do you see how this went? So, Opelousas, and this is Louisiana again, massacre, 1868. Votes of the recently freed black men, Republicans won a vast majority of the elections that year. White Democrats, many racists, especially those in Knights of the White Camellia, started with force oppressing all the black people they could get their hands on. Of course, they didn't want black people to use their right to vote. They didn't even want us to have a right to vote. But on September 28, 1868, as the U.S. presidential election drew near, a local newspaper editor was beaten. A dozen or more black men came to his aid, and they were arrested, later dragged out of jail, and lynched. So we know this sparked armed white people to search for and murder every black person they could find. It ended in a few weeks. Did you catch that? A few weeks. So later, with the death toll around 300 African Americans, that was a shit show. But are you catching this? White Democrats, many racists. They didn't want blacks to use their right to vote. They were very upset that black men came to the aid of a newspaper editor who was out there. And so they wanted to kill for that reason too. It's a lot of wants and seem like need for them to kill black people. Now moving along. Thibodaux Massacre, November 23rd, 1887. Black sugar workers, with the help of organized labor, began to demand appropriate wages. They want to be fair. They want to be paid for their work. In response, plant owners skipped negotiations, fired union workers, and strikes began. The plant owners hired strike breakers and created armed militia, whom kidnapped black workers from their homes and killed them at the railroads after telling them to run. Did you catch that? But we weren't taught this in school. Now, as a result, workers returned to work. There was no justice for the families who lost the heads of their households. It's devastating households, disrupting the black culture and society. The most heinous part is one of those men who took part in the murders went on to win a seat in Congress the next year. The man who took place and possibly murdered who knows how many people ended up winning a seat in Congress. That says a whole lot. Racism, all this has been a shit show for years. Now, Wilmington, North Carolina, insurrection of 1898. Keyword insurrection. But we'll get to that. But this is of 1898. Having lost control of the state in 1894, the state's Democrats changed their tactics, relying on a explicitly racist campaign platform centered on the scourge of black men preying on innocent white women. So we lying now. Adding fuel to the fire, the city council of Wilmington ended up being interracial. Enraged, 2,000 white men launched an attack, burning down the local newspaper, the Daily Record. Next, they marched through Wilmington, exiling black citizens and killing those unwilling to leave, murdering as many as 60 people. The final move, they then forced the duly elected local government to resign at gunpoint, installing their own leadership who only days prior had promised to choke the current of the Cape Fear River with black bodies. But America is not racist. America just has problems. No, America is racist. And we were not taught that in school neither. The Red Summer, 1918. Now, this is after World War I. And this is when black and white troops had been fighting alongside each other and working together. You know, people did not like that either. Now, after World War I, black and white troops returned home, to which black men were no longer willing to live under Jim Crow laws. Whites began to brutally assault random black men throughout the country. Throughout the country, y'all. Especially those who had fought in the war. You want to kill the people who fought in a war to protect you. How dumb, how fucking dumb can you be? Like, it's a pattern. It's a pattern. The ignorance is truly a pattern. So for 3 days in the small town of Elaine, Arkansas, violence was dealt out to black sharecroppers who were trying to improve their working conditions. Over 200 men, women, and children were murdered because of it. But America is not racist. There's no problem. There's no systematic racism going on. It's just people complaining, black people complaining for no reason. No, there's a reason. There's a reason. And a normal, intelligent, productive citizen of this country would want things to be done the right and fair way. So basically, because these people decided to stand up for themselves and their rights, they were murdered. Women, children, all. And this is throughout history, but they're not teaching this in school. So are we kind of seeing why a lot of racists do not want this taught in school? Can you imagine how some of their children would feel if they knew that they did this? And the parents were basically kind of keeping this a secret. It was like a family secret, and they didn't really tell anybody. And so they figured, okay, well, times have changed a little bit. We're not going to teach this generation that. What happens when that generation finds out? So is this part of the reason why they're throwing rocks but want to hide their hands? Because they don't want to be embarrassed or made to have to own up to whatever was done? That's a big possibility. So, okay, now we're over in Oakey, Florida. The massacre there, November 2nd, 1920. A wealthy African-American man named Mose Norman tried to vote but was rejected. KKK members stole Norman's gun and ordered him home. These members searched the predominantly black neighborhood for him later. Unable to find Mose Norman, the KKK set their sights on another well-to-do black man named July Perry. He was captured, his neighborhood burned to the ground, and lynched. The event so horrific that the town turned all white for some decades. No justice received there for the black Oakey, Florida victims. See, it just continued throughout the years. And if anyone is on the fence about America not being racist, you might want to pay attention to this. Nobody needs to live in denial. Okay, so these next few, I'm going to kind of skip through them. You can actually do your own research, because I say everybody do your own research. That way you have a better understanding. Because there is, true enough, a lot of misinformation out there. This is another reason why I'm doing this particular topic, because I want the truth to get out there. So we have Tulsa, Oklahoma race massacre. That was May 30, 1921. Then we have Rosewood, Florida, January of 1923. The Atlanta race riot, September 22nd, 1906. I mean, it just went on. And so what are we dealing with now? Is that not racism? Is that not hatred? I mean, is it fair to be treated very ugly like that? And then it be hidden away like some dirty little secret that you don't want anyone to know? No. Everything that is done in the dark will come to the light, and everything is coming to the light, including this critical race theory. But by no means, don't misunderstand, because white people are not the only ones who had a hand to play in slavery. Yes, I said it. It's going to be some people mad at me, but I said it. White people are not the only one. They were the predominantly ones that were slave masters. But there were others. There were others. So even in the 20th century, we are still witnessing the same hatred and jealousy that some white Americans have grown up believing generations later, leading to death, terror, and mistreatment. So, okay, what is racism exactly? Because some people want to put different reasonings and whatnot to it, but not exactly go with the actual definition. So what is racism? It's an act of discrimination that is carried out before a person or a group for racial or ethnic reasons, where certain individuals consider themselves superior and reject anyone who is not in their group. Now, racism can also be seen in discriminatory laws such as residential segregation, inequality of opportunities in economic, educational, and or health. So, the main charge is in the form of expression modern racism. What is that? What the fuck is that, right? Yeah, it's symbolic racism. It's aversive racism and subtle racism. Unintentional racism is as destructive as intentional racism. Let's be clear here. Racism has never ceased to exist. It's just that now that we have so many modern devices that we can record and protect ourselves from anything. So whatever pops off, we can break out the phone and record audio and video and I would have to say, in today's time, I would definitely suggest that. Because as you can see throughout history, they don't even want to tell the truth about what took place in history. So if you get tangled up in some shit, don't expect any of them to tell the truth then. Hell, it's people out there lying on people to get them arrested for nothing. Yeah, I had to get quiet on that one. For nothing. That's where the Karens and the Chads and all of them come in at. For nothing. But that's that racism. America is racist. It does have some huge problems. And they don't want those to be spilled over into the classrooms teaching their kids about their possibly dirty past. And that's pretty much what this is. And they can't say that there isn't any proof out there. There is. There definitely is. Hell, the Catholic Church played a role. And their missionaries. Yes, they all played a role. Spain, everybody else. There was even black slave masters. Let me say that. Let me run that back. Let me say that one more time. Yes, there were even some black slave masters. I'm going to let that percolate on the brain right there. And I know somebody's about to have a fucking heart attack because I said that. God damn it, it's the truth. That's the problem with America. Nobody wants to tell the truth. Nobody wants to admit when they're wrong. Nobody wants to take accountability for shit. That's why they don't want critical race theory to be taught. Because then people would know. And they don't want that. But the throw part is, if they actually did teach critical race theory in school, everyone who was a slave master, took part in it, had anything to do with it, would be on Front Street. Because like I said before, no, it's not just white people. It was just more white people doing the shit. But it was other people in there too. Because I think right up under the white people, it was Jewish people. Yes, I said it. Look it up. Check into it. Check into it. So, okay. For example, Christopher Columbus. Anybody with good damn sense know that he did not discover America. That shit was already there, and it was already people there. As a matter of fact, a couple of the people that were already there had a few slaves of their own already. You can't discover something somebody else has found. It's just that because he was light, bright, and white, they ran with it. And then history gets watered down and whitewashed and stripped of all the nutrients and vitamins and minerals. It's like overcooking food. But Christopher Columbus was involved in the early slave trade and learned his skills as a sailor on the African coast. He trafficked in African slaves and Indians, 600 or so of whom he enslaved and brought to Europe, whom I believe, by the way, is a Jewish, or at least half Jewish man. There were also Jewish slave merchants from Portugal in the mid-1400s. Let me say that again. In the 1400s. Like I said before, the Catholic Church and Catholic missionaries did not oppose of the institution of slavery. Did not oppose. That's real shit right there. A church and its missionaries and its ministers and preachers and pastors did not oppose of slavery. Some of the Catholic missionaries also owned slaves, while others tried to help slaves. The church leaders and church did not condemn slavery until around the 17th century. The 17th century. Did you catch that? So that should tell you a lot right there. And some of those missionaries ended up getting in trouble because they weren't down with it. It didn't feel right to them. And they tried to come up with literature and things like that to try to help Native Americans and, Africans and all of that to learn and to be able to help themselves. But that literature ended up getting those missionaries into a lot of trouble. Kind of like today when you say Black Lives Matters and somebody shits a whole goddamn cow. All lives matter. Same difference. Now, for those of you who are just now tuning in, this may surprise some, but yes, it is a fact that some black people did indeed have slaves of their own, and in this country bought and sold other black people, and did so since around 1654. That is until sometime after the Civil War. Some say for protection and others say for profit. The reason varied, and it is much debated by many intellectuals, scholars, professors, and so on. So for a period of time, free black people could own the services of white servants in Virginia. Now let me go back to the beginning of that statement. For a period of time. So you see that didn't last long. By 1783 in Connecticut, and it went on in 13 original states and later in every state that opposed ending slavery. In 1830, a total of 2,009,043 slaves owned in the entire United States. Now, 3,776 free black Negroes owned 12,907 slaves, and the rest by white people. Nobody gets away with playing their role in this. Nobody. Everybody involved should have to own up to their issues because they had a hand in this. So, in the past and in the present day, we see some people who are unashamed to flaunt their racism every chance they get, and others who publicly condemned racism, violence, and slavery, but privately allow it to continue, or, nowadays, are in hopes of it returning. Even the deaf, blind, and mute can understand that America is racist. And if you say it's not, you're full of shit. You're lying to yourself, and you're lying to everyone around you. Everyone is in need of historical clarity. Black men, women, and children deserve kindness and respect. They deserve to breathe and live in peace. So how does this even happen? How do we even get here? How does this shit work? In planning with preparation, men, women, and children were thrust into slavery. Its victims had no rights or hope. It's a monopoly thing. You take over. You go in. You pretty much destroy how everything is already set up within a community or society. You cause drama and problems, like dropping off some drugs or guns or anything like that. Going in, causing problems, basically throwing rocks and hiding your hands, and making it seem like it is that particular society and race of people who are doing it. Not being fair by any means. Not being truthful. Monopolizing pretty much every industry. Because if they monopolize every industry and just have it all together and they own everything, what do we own? That's part of the reason why Black Wall Street was destroyed. It's a fear that we would do so much better than they could do. But the sad part is, we don't live for that bullshit. We just want to live. We don't give two shits about how much money anyone else got or what they got going on in their home or their family. Black people really don't give a shit about that because we're too busy living our best life. So all the insecurities and everything that's been trying to be put on us, you can keep that bullshit. Because black people are not lazy. We are very intelligent. We're very creative. And it will stay that way. Nothing's going to change that. And throughout history, you should see that. The more we are, the more you put us through bullshit, the stronger you make us. And the wiser you make us. Think about that for a moment. That's why everything took a shift. And they began to become congressmen, lawyers, doctors, all these things. They're in the Senate. It's a monopoly type of thing. That's why you have the police doing what they're doing. The police do not, there is no box on that on that damn job application that asks, are you racist? There's no test that they do. And it really should be, because that is a mental and emotional thing right there, which can turn physical. Nobody needs that. Nobody need to go through that. Like, at all. But that is not done. It's like the insurrection that happened. Let's be clear here. When black people were protesting peacefully over all the deaths that have taken place at the hands of racist cops, they had so much fucking manpower and gunpower that it made no fucking sense for a simple protest. It was even some situations to where people were coming up missing during the protest. Not sure if any of them came back or were found or what happened to them. But because these Caucasian men and women decided to protest, and amongst the other things, since they were Caucasian, they weren't on high alert. Oh no, those are good old white folks. So we don't have to worry about them. They know how to behave. Bullshit. You see different, don't you? And to be honest about it, everyone involved in that should be sentenced for a very long time. But it goes to show who the dangerous ones really are. Who really doesn't have self-control. Who are willing to destroy their entire livelihood. And who are willing to risk losing money and income to be defiling a government building and breaking in and killing the cops that are protecting that area. Basically going on a witch hunt in there for Pelosi. The videos were out there. They were so happy. Oh, they were so happy to be breaking I don't know how many fucking laws. But there was no militia there for them. There were no police there to check their ass. They were able to break in a federal government building and threaten the people who are on these boards to serve us. Black folks didn't do that. Mexicans didn't do that. Chinese folks didn't do that. I mean, I can go down the list, but y'all know what the hell I'm talking about. So this should be taught in school so everyone can have an understanding of what the fuck is really going on. And if anyone does not want the truth to be told, that lets you know right then and there who and what the fuck they are and stand for. You can for damn sure be clear about that. So don't be misunderstood. Don't be blind to what's going on. And if they're not willing to teach your children the truth, you might want to teach them at home. We should be teaching them before they even go to school anyway, because we don't set the curriculum there. These same racist people who run everything sets everything up. That's why there's so much strife. That's why there's so many misunderstandings and incidents of violence. Critical race theory should be taught in school for everyone's benefit. Everyone. So the white, the black, and everything in between who had a hand to play in slavery and racism, which still continues today in America, can get some damn act right. Get some humility. Use some common sense. It's very much needed. Everyone needs historical clarity. Everyone. And guys, I have been on for 40 minutes now. It is time for me to go. Yes, but let me know what y'all thought about this. How you feel about this. I'm accepting feedback. I want to know how you guys feel about this. What are your thoughts on this? Did I miss something? Did I strike a nerve? Anything. Let me know. Critical race theory. Let's talk. On One Radio. I have been your host. Thank you for listening. You have been listening to On One Radio, the talk show podcast station, bringing you Let's Talk. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my talk show. I wish you the best and don't allow anybody to fuck up your vibes. I've been your host, Tony Williams. For more, On One Radio is found on YouTube. The name over there is Tony On One. You can find On One Radio on Facebook. Podcasts are available on most of your favorite podcast sites and apps. And to get in contact, you can email on oneradiotalk@gmail.com.